The film opens with a young orphan girl named Heidi, who has been living with her aunt for several years. However, due to certain circumstances, her aunt is unable to care for her any longer. Consequently, Heidi is taken to the mountains to live with her grandfather, Alpo High. The townspeople harbor fears about him, believing he may have committed a murder in the past. Despite these rumors, Heidi remains unfazed and does not consider the possibility of Alpo High being a threat. She simply accompanies her aunt to his residence. As they ascend the mountain, Heidi feels constrained in her formal dress, prompting her to remove it for greater comfort, allowing her to appreciate the beauty of nature. Upon arriving at Alpo High's home, he initially refuses to accept Heidi. Her aunt feigns an intention to take Heidi back but secretly abandons her and flees. When Alpo High discovers that Heidi has been left behind, he attempts to confront her aunt, but she disregards him. In frustration, Alpo High decides to leave Heidi alone and secures his house from the inside. With no alternatives, Heidi finds refuge in the barn among the goats. The following morning, Alpo High provides her with goat's milk for breakfast. Subsequently, he takes her to the priest, who examines Heidi and confirms her complete health. The priest then advises Alpo High that it is his duty to care for her. Alpo High, however, expresses his reluctance to keep Heidi. In response, the priest requests 3 days to determine if any farmer in the area requires a child helper. Back at home, Alpo High permits her to enter the house, but it is evident that the space is arranged for a single occupant. Noticing this, Heidi discovers a pile of hay, which she joyfully transforms into her bed and begins to reside there. The following day, Heidi encounters a boy named Peter, who visits daily to take Alpo High's goats for grazing. One day, Alpo High decides to send Heidi along with him, providing her with bread and cheese for lunch. Heidi relishes this opportunity, as it allows her to experience the outdoors and enjoy the open sky. Peter discreetly consumes a portion of Heidi's lunch, and when she notices, he quickly shifts the blame to the goats. As they converse, 2 goats unexpectedly begin to fight, prompting Peter to use his stick to intervene. However, Heidi disapproves of this action and makes Peter vow never to strike the goats again. In exchange, she agrees to share half of her lunch with him daily, but Peter requests that she keep their agreement confidential due to his fear of Alpo High. Upon returning home, Heidi starts acting oddly around Alpo High, even insisting on sleeping in the barn. Alpo High realizes she has been misled about him and calmly advises her to trust her own feelings rather than the words of others. This advice softens Heidi's heart, leading her to embrace her grandfather and happily retire to the attic for the night. The following day, Heidi accompanies Peter and the goats again, while Alpo High engages in crafting. When Heidi returns home, she is delighted to find another chair at the dining table for her. Alpo High informs her that she can him, which fills her with joy. In a matter of days, she wins Alpo High's affection and becomes best friends with Peter. Feeling more at ease, she even opts for a short haircut. One day, Peter informs her that he can no longer play with her as he must begin attending school. Nevertheless, he invites Heidi to visit his home anytime and assures her that they can resume their play during spring break. This news inspires Heidi to express a desire to attend school as well, but Alpo High refrains from sending her, understanding that she would be unable to travel to town for school during the winter. As winter sets in, venturing outdoors becomes challenging for Heidi. Remaining indoors constantly leads to her feeling bored and restless. Observing this, Alpo High crafts a wooden bird toy for her, but it does little to uplift her spirits. In an effort to cheer her up, Alpo High constructs a sled capable of traversing the snow and takes her for a ride, which successfully elevates her mood. Afterward, he drops Heidi off at Peter's house, allowing her to spend time there. At Peter's home, she meets his mother and grandmother, who are struggling financially due to the passing of Peter's father. Nevertheless, Peter's mother is doing her utmost to provide him with an education. After a full day with them, Heidi returns home, embraces Alpo High, and reflects on her good fortune in having him. Time goes by, and Heidi continues to enjoy a happy life with her grandfather. Everything appears idyllic until one day, her aunt unexpectedly arrives, informing Alpo High that she has come to take Heidi back, as she now has a job that enables her to care for Heidi. However, Alpo High is skeptical of her intentions. Pretending to be embarrassed, she acts as though she is leaving, but once again deceives Alpo High and secretly searches for Heidi. Deep finds Heidi playing with Peter and, upon asking her to come along, Heidi declines, stating that Alpo High also wishes for her to go. Upon hearing her grandfather's name, Heidi expresses her belief and agrees to depart when Peter returns with the goats. Alpo quickly comprehends the situation and rushes to the town in search of her, but by that time, it is too late. He takes Heidi to Frankfurt, where they arrive at an opulent mansion. There, she is introduced to Heidi, but the governess is displeased with her presence, perceiving Heidi as ill-mannered and unkempt. Deep reminds the governess that they specifically requested an orphan girl to serve as a companion for the owner's daughter, Clara, who is unable to walk. Heidi eagerly pushes Clara's wheelchair but accidentally breaks a vase. Clara takes full responsibility in front of the governess. If Heidi is to remain with Clara, she must learn many things, so they clean her up and begin instructing her on how to conduct herself properly in the household. Heidi also starts her studies with Clara, but when it is discovered that she cannot read or write, everyone is taken aback. The governess immediately wishes to dismiss Heidi, but she cannot do so until Clara's father arrives, so she instructs the professor to ensure Heidi begins her studies as well. Within a few days, Heidi learns the household rules, yet she does not entirely change. Whenever she has the opportunity, she discreetly hides pieces of bread in her pockets. Heidi wins Clara's affection and grows very close to her. Clara confides her feelings, revealing that she was so devastated by her mother's death that she ceased to walk. One evening, Heidi requests a servant named Sebastian to open the window so she can view the mountains, but upon looking outside, she sees only buildings. Sebastian informs her that she must go to a much higher location to see the mountains. Heidi cleverly deceives everyone and sneaks out of the house with Clara, who is overjoyed as she has never been allowed to leave. They reach the city tower, and Heidi leaves Clara behind to climb higher in search of the mountains. However, she is once again disappointed, as all she sees are endless buildings. In the meantime, Clara begins to feel frightened, but she soon spots a woman selling kittens and decides to purchase some. Back at home, a panic ensues when everyone realizes the girls are missing, prompting a rush to the market in search of them. Sebastian ultimately locates them, and Clara swiftly conceals the kittens beneath her blanket before they return home. Just as Fine is about to express her anger, she starts sneezing due to her cat allergy. At that moment, one of the kittens leaps from Clara's lap, causing Fine to become so startled that she climbs a pole. During lunch, Fine makes Heidi stand facing the wall, warning her that a more severe punishment awaits next time. This leaves Heidi feeling miserable, leading her to secretly take all the bread she had saved and attempt to sneak out of the house. However, Fine catches her and reprimands her, insisting that she should appreciate the privileged life and home she has. Despite this, Heidi is more troubled by Clara's tears following the incident. Clara's health deteriorates, and Heidi is overwhelmed with guilt. Once Clara begins to feel better, Heidi visits her room to clarify that her departure was not due to Clara. As Clara recovers, she resumes her normal routine of studying. A few days later, Clara's father and grandmother arrive, and Clara is thrilled to see them, though Fine appears displeased at Clara's joy with a friend. Clara's father feels reassured that his plan was effective, but Fine attempts to persuade him otherwise, arguing that Heidi is still unruly and neglects her studies. Clara's grandmother, however, holds a different view. Rather than accepting others' opinions, she wishes to observe everything firsthand. That evening, she tells Heidi a bedtime story but leaves it unfinished, hoping that Heidi will be inspired to read it herself. Heidi then confesses that she is reluctant to learn because Peter has told her that studying is pointless. Upon hearing this, the grandmother advises Heidi not to accept everything she hears at face value and to engage in her own analysis. Since Heidi has a passion for stories, she resolves to concentrate on her learning. The following day, Clara's grandmother informs her father that while Heidi is a delightful child, keeping her indoors contradicts her desires, and thus she should be returned. However, he is reluctant to do so, as Heidi's presence has positively impacted Clara's health. As time progresses, peculiar sounds begin to emanate from the house, and the servants frequently discover the main door ajar. Meanwhile, Heidi diligently works to complete her story and ultimately masters reading, proudly reciting it in front of the entire family. Observing this, Clara's father acknowledges that Heidi is capable of remaining in the house, yet Heidi does not appear genuinely content. That night, Clara's grandmother returns home, and while Clara's father engages in a game of chess with a friend, he hears the same strange noises. Fearing a potential intruder, Clara's father's friend investigates the house, only to find that it is Heidi, who is sleepwalking. Unaware, she leaves her room, opens the main door, and gazes at the night sky, reminiscent of her time tending to goats. She then returns to her room and resumes her slumber. The doctor examines Heidi and discovers she is severely shivering from the cold. He diagnoses her with homesickness and cautions that if she is not sent home soon, her health may be at risk. Nevertheless, Clara's father remains uncertain about sending Heidi away. The next morning, he informs Clara of Heidi's condition and explains the necessity of her return home. Instead of comprehending the situation, Clara becomes distressed and locks herself in her room. Although Heidi is eager to go home, she is concerned for Clara. She attempts to speak with her, but Clara refuses to open the door. Ultimately, the moment arrives for Heidi to depart, and before leaving, she gifts Clara's father a wooden bird that was created by Alpo High. Clara promises that she will return for another visit. She believes that the house will be tranquil, but upon turning around, she discovers a kitten. The cook decides to adopt the kitten and names her Heidi. Meanwhile, Heidi returns to Alpo High's town, where everyone is delighted to see her. She quickly seeks out Alpo High, but circumstances have changed. Alpo High now enrolls Heidi in school, and during the winter, they relocate to a house in town. Heidi's new teacher is compassionate, making her learning experience more enjoyable. Life returns to normal, and Heidi finally achieves the existence she has always desired. Although she is content with her new life in the mountains, she still longs for Clara. She writes letters to her, which make Clara feel sad, realizing she never had the chance to say goodbye to Heidi. Observing her granddaughter's sorrow, Clara's grandmother decides to take her to visit Heidi. When the two friends reunite, they are filled with joy. Clara's grandmother then allows her to stay with Heidi for a few days, during which Heidi shows Clara her mountain lifestyle, strengthening their bond. However, this situation incites jealousy in Peter, who one day pushes Clara's wheelchair off a cliff. It quickly becomes apparent that Peter is responsible for ensuring Clara's safety. Alpo High remains with both children at all times, but Clara, captivated by a beautiful butterfly, impulsively stands up to follow it. Initially struggling, she ultimately takes small steps with the assistance of Heidi and Peter, showing remarkable progress. A few days later, Clara's father and grandmother arrive to take her home, and upon witnessing Clara standing independently, they are filled with immense joy. Before departing, Clara assures Heidi that they will meet again. Clara's grandmother gifts Heidi a diary and a pen. In the concluding scene, Heidi is seen joyfully tending to goats with Peter, and alongside her daily activities, she writes in her diary, realizing her dream. The film concludes on this heartwarming note.